what's up guys? Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. Here in today's video, I want to give you a routine that if you practice for 1 year straight, you will be able to solo like a rock star. Alright? It's a bold claim, I know. But I don't know. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I mean, I am, right? I'm trying to sell you memberships to Zombie Guitar, right? But I've been doing that for 10 years now. Every single one of my videos is always like, hey, buy my membership to Zombie Guitar. So that's nothing new. What I am trying to sell you here in this video is your time to watch this video and actually do the thing that I tell you to do, and do it for 3 to 4 days per week for 1 hour per day, and then do that for 52 weeks straight. And then if you do that, you will be able to solo like a rock star. I'm telling you, just do it. So if that sounds interesting to you, then let's get into it. Before I give you what you need to practice, you need to understand 3 things. Number 1, the first thing is that all of these scale patterns that everyone's trying to connect together, which is exactly what we're going to be doing here in today's video. This is all about connecting scale patterns together, because when you know how to connect the scale patterns together, then you can solo like a rock star. That's literally all it takes. These patterns that everyone's trying to connect together, they have like a million different arbitrary labels, you know? Pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pattern 1, 2, 3, pattern ABC, pattern whatever. This is where all of this ranting about the cage system and modes always comes into play. I'm always like, guys, that's not the cage system. That's just arbitrary labels that people are assigning to these scale patterns, you know? The C pattern, the A pattern, the G pattern, the E pattern, the D pattern. Not the cage system. You don't need the cage system for this stuff. The cage system is for something else that is more advanced, which you're going to worry about in a year from now, because you're going to do what we're talking about here for 1 year straight. So don't worry about the cage stuff. This is also about the modes ranting that I'm always ranting about. People are like, oh, the Ionian mode pattern plus the Dorian mode pattern plus the Phrygian mode pattern plus all 7 mode patterns together lets me solo in key across the fretboard. Not modes. That's just arbitrary labels for scale patterns that you're using. You don't understand modes. If you're doing that, you're just connecting scale patterns together, all right? That's all we're doing. We're just connecting scale patterns. The only arbitrary labels that I will be using for this video is pentatonic position 1 and pentatonic position 4. The only 2 labels. Don't worry about modes. Don't worry about cage. Don't worry about 5 pentatonic positions. Don't worry about anything for this video. 2 arbitrary labels for scale patterns, which is all you're going to need to know where you're at on the fretboard for any major key or any minor key. Pentatonic position 1, pentatonic position 4. The only labels you need to know. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it doesn't matter what the chords are that we're soloing over. I don't care about the chords for this video. You shouldn't care about the chords for this video. F those chords, man. Who gives a rat's big, fat, hiney what the chords are? If you're in a band and you're jamming with the band and you're like, hey, Mike, what key are we in? And Mike's like, we're in the key of B minor. That's all you need to know to solo like a rock star. Or if you're on YouTube and you're looking up a backing track or something and it's like, hey, we're going to play in the key of A major. That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter what the chords are. You just need to know that it's the key of A major. Who cares about the chords? All right? That's the second thing. The third thing is, you're like, what do you mean I shouldn't care about the chords? Of course I'm supposed to care about the chords. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the next level. Next year you're going to worry about that. That's layer 2. That's where you're going to use the cage system for that stuff. That's where you really kind of like, you really fine-tune your skills. Like, you already know how to solo like a rock star by the time that stuff kicks in. You can solo like a rock star in any key up and down the entire neck of the guitar, and you don't need to pay attention to the chords in order to do that. But then when it's time to really fine-tune your skills, aka chord tone targeting, aka playing arpeggios over each chord, aka playing to the chord changes, that's where all that fine-tuning stuff comes in. But you need to know this how to solo like a rock star stuff, which consists of connecting scale patterns together, which are completely arbitrarily labeled in a million different ways, which confuses the crap out of everyone, thinking that they are learning their modes and they're learning the cage system or whatever. They're just all types of confusion going on, right? So yeah, you do eventually want to pay attention to the chords, but make sure you know how to connect your scale patterns together first. So next year, worry about that. All right, so now we just need to look at the big gigantic pattern that you need to learn in order to solo like a rock star in any major key or any minor key, and it looks like this. Right now what you're looking at is the key of C major. You're also looking at the key of A minor. If you were on a piano, this would just be the white keys. So this is one big gigantic pattern, and there's a bunch of ways to break it down into smaller patterns. When people break it down into 7 patterns, they usually confuse it with modes. When people break it down into 5 patterns, they usually confuse it with the cage system. When people break it down into 3 patterns, well, they don't really do that very often because there's nothing to confuse that with, so it doesn't really get talked about very often, but that's the way I like to do it. I like to break it down into just 3 patterns, but there's a bunch of different ways to break this stuff down, but that's a lot of memorization. That's a lot of patterns, blah, 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 blah. We just need to know where the hell we are in this key. We're in the key of C major. We're in the key of A minor. All I need to know is that for a minor key, I'm going to locate my reference patterns with my index finger. If I'm in a major key context, then I'm going to locate my reference patterns, which are going to be pentatonic position number 1 and pentatonic position number 4 with my pinky finger. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So let's find pentatonic position number 1. Let's say the context is A minor. I yell across the stage, "Hey, Mike, what key are we in?" Mike's like, "We're in the key of A minor." All right, cool. Index finger. Put it on the note A on the low E string. Boom, right there. So here's my pentatonic position number 1. Take my index finger. Put it on the note A on the low E string. You have an A up here, so here's my pentatonic position number 1. Whenever I have my pentatonic position number 1, which looks and sounds like this, I can go ahead and I can add a little piece of pentatonic position number 2 and a little piece of pentatonic position number 5 to it. And I'm only going to do so on the upper 3 strings for the higher extension and the lower 2 strings for the lower extension. That way I'm not so stuck in these little box patterns. So I can do stuff like, or the same thing up here. You know, they kind of play in diagonal fashions. So that's that. And then I'm not going to include all of the extra notes from the scale, because remember, the pentatonic scale is just 5 of the 7 total notes. That's why the pentatonic notes in the pentatonic position 1 and these little extensions are lit up in yellow, but then you still have some notes that are black. So the black notes are the non-pentatonic notes, but they're still part of this key. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add those notes in, but I'm only going to do so on the high 3 strings. So I'm going to add this note here, and this note here. All right, so that way if I want to get a little bit more melodic, this is going to sound a lot better once I start to noodle over a backing track, so just bear with me here. Anyway, so that's the framework surrounding pentatonic position number 1 for down here. The same thing is going to be up here. So keep in mind that was for a minor context. I could have done the exact same thing if it was the key of C major. Like I said, "Hey, Mike, what key are we in?" And he was like, "We're in the key of C major." That I would have arrived at the exact same pattern, the same roadmap. If I was in a major key context, I would just locate pentatonic position number 1 with my pinky instead of my index finger. That's the only difference. So let's go and look at the fretboard again. So here, you have the same big gigantic pattern, which can be broken down into a bunch of different ways, but I don't need to know all that stuff. All I need to know is, hey, I'm in the key of C major. All right, pinky, put it on the note C, right there, 8th fret. Boom, here's my pentatonic position number 1. Go ahead, add in my upper extension, my lower extension, add in my extra diatonic notes on the high 3 strings down here and up here. Same exact roadmap, you know? So A minor, C major, it's the same key as far as I'm concerned. It's the exact same notes, the exact same patterns, you know? Some people like to label their positions one way for major and a different way for minor. Why confuse yourselves like that? Why not just keep it consistent for major and minor? It makes zero difference to me. I don't know. Do it how you want, but this is the way I'm suggesting to do it. All right, so minor, major. Let's go back to this big gigantic pattern again. So we've whittled our little roadmap into this, this big gigantic pattern. We've whittled it down into a roadmap that's much easier to memorize and kind of move around to any key. So let's just go ahead and add in one additional position. We're going to add in pentatonic position number 4. Minor, major. All right, so if I want to locate it for minor, I take my index finger, put it on the note A, on the A string this time, and here's how you find your pentatonic position 4. All right, so and then if you want to add some little extensions from neighboring pentatonic positions, you can go ahead and add this, and then up here you can add maybe this. All right, so that's the little extensions surrounding pentatonic position number 4. You could also find the same pentatonic position number 4 for the key of C major. You would just take your pinky, put it on the note C right here, and then there's your pentatonic position 4 again, your lower extension to that and your upper extension to that. All right, then you can go ahead and add in the diatonic notes to just the high 2 strings for this pattern. So all right, so it doesn't matter if it's A minor or C major, that's your roadmap. And the way we came up with that roadmap was just we found pentatonic position number 1 based on the key, whether the key was A minor or C major, A minor or C major. And then we added the extensions to that, and then we did the same thing for pentatonic position number 4. And that gave us the entire fretboard. All right, so with all that said, now I'm just going to give you 4 demos. I'm going to give you 2 major and 2 minor, 4 completely different keys. right, so yeah, it didn't sound all that great. These were first take improvs. That was the first time I ever heard any of those backing tracks. I just went on YouTube and I just picked a random key. I was just like, A minor, okay, that sounds good. What was the next key? I don't remember what the next key was. Some kind of F minor. That's right. I was like F minor. Then B major, then E major. I just picked random keys. I just typed it into YouTube. I just downloaded it. It was the first time I heard it. I'm really not the greatest improviser in the world. I am much better of a writer. You know, if you want to check out some of my originals, I have an original list or a original playlist here on YouTube. So if you want to check out some of my originals, I work much better. But it all pretty much just comes down to understanding the key, and then you know where you're at on the fretboard based on the key, and then you can kind of reduce all these scale patterns to like an easy to remember roadmap. You know, so if you're a good improviser, then yeah, you use that to improvise with. If you're more like me and you just want to kind of write stuff out, you want to kind of get the backing track or whatever, and then really write a specific solo, which is what I like to do, and use the same exact roadmap to do so, that's cool too, you know? I don't know. Some people like to improvise, some people like to write, some people like to do a mix of both. I'm more of a writer. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to give you like as most of a raw, just like, look, this is what I'm doing. This is how you do it, you know? So it's actually a lot easier than a lot of people are led to believe, you know? And that's what I wanted to show you here in this video. So just practice that stuff for a year, and you'll probably be improvising much better than me. So yeah, that's that. Have fun. See you next time.